gripped the DNA test in my hands. My vision blurred as I reread the results, my fingers shaking. 99.99% not a paternal match. Not my son. Not my son. The boy I had raised. The boy who called me Daddy. My stomach twisted violently, a sickness clawing up my throat. The air in the room thickened. My chest tightened like I was suffocating under the weight of a world I no longer recognized. I looked up at my wife. No, the stranger standing in front of me. Jessica sighed, swirling her wine glass lazily. Like this was an inconvenience, not the destruction of our family. Oh my God, Daniel. Stop looking at me like that, she groaned. It's not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. Something inside me snapped. I slammed the paper onto the table so hard the wine bottle rattled. Not a big deal? Jessica, I've spent the last 6 years raising a child that isn't mine. Do you even understand what you've done? She rolled her goddamn eyes. Oh, here we go. Can we skip the dramatic speech? You're acting like I killed someone. My hands clenched into fists. I had never hit a woman in my life, but right now, I understood how men lost control. I took a step back. Who's his father? My voice came out like a growl, barely restrained rage simmering beneath my skin. Jessica took a long, slow sip of her wine before answering. Does it matter? I blinked. Did it matter? I almost laughed. Are you out of your mind? I gestured wildly at the DNA results. I just found out my entire life is a goddamn lie, and you're asking if it matters? She shrugged, setting her glass down. You're still his dad, legally speaking. You raised him. Isn't that enough? Enough? I felt my jaw tighten. My pulse thundered in my ears. Tell me who the father is, Jessica. Right now. She smirked. Make me. I lunged before I could stop myself, grabbing the envelope with the rest of the documents. The proof. The betrayal in ink and paper. I flipped through the pages with trembling hands until I found it. A name. Jake Patterson. My best friend. I stared at the page. The letters blurred together. Jake. My voice cracked, barely above a whisper. Jessica had the audacity to chuckle. Oh, so you finally figured it out. My vision went red. My grip tightened on the papers. Jake, my best friend since college. The guy who was at my wedding. The guy who toasted to eternal love, with a grin while secretly screwing my wife. How long? My voice was eerily calm, but inside, I was a volcano ready to erupt. Jessica tilted her head, pretending to think. Oh, I don't know, 6, maybe 7 years? I felt the world spin. 7 years. That meant she was with him while we were engaged, while we said our vows, while I held our son for the first time, thinking he was mine. I took a step back, gripping the chair for support. My legs felt weak, like they could give out any second. Jessica sighed, crossing her arms. Look, Daniel, let's be adults about this. Yeah, I screwed up, but you weren't exactly thrilling either. I looked up at her, barely believing what I was hearing. Excuse me? She scoffed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. Come on, Daniel. You're predictable. Safe. Boring. I needed excitement. Jake gave me that. The words sliced through me like razors. Boring. After everything I had done for her, for our so-called family, this was my reward? Jessica rolled her eyes again. God, stop acting like the victim. You would have never found out if someone hadn't sent you that envelope. That snapped me back to reality. The envelope. I turned back to the papers, scanning through them again. A detail I had overlooked before suddenly stood out. The sender's address. It wasn't random. Someone wanted me to know. I grabbed my phone, my fingers flying across the screen as I called the number listed on the last page. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then someone picked up. A deep voice, low and controlled. Took you long enough. I felt my blood run cold. Who is this? The man chuckled. Someone who thought you deserved the truth. I swallowed hard. Why now? A pause. Then, because it's not over. A chill ran down my spine. Jessica, still oblivious, yawned. Are we done here? Because I have plans tonight. I stared at her, phone still pressed to my ear. The voice on the line spoke again, quieter this time. Check your wife's phone, Daniel. Do it now. I didn't hesitate. Jessica barely had time to react before I snatched it off the counter and unlocked it with the passcode I had memorized long ago. She gasped, lunging for it. Hey, what the hell? I held it away, scrolling quickly through her messages. And then I saw it. A new text from Jake. He bought it. I'll meet you at the hotel at 9. Same room. Can't wait to finish what we started. My entire body went numb. Jessica's face paled. For the first time that night, she looked scared. Daniel, I can explain. I slowly turned to face her. My grip on the phone tightened. No, I said quietly. I don't think you can. Jessica lunged for the phone, but I stepped back, holding it out of reach. Daniel, give it back, she snapped, her voice suddenly shrill, her perfect little act cracking at the edges. I ignored her, my eyes locked on the screen, heart pounding. Jake, he bought it. I'll meet you at the hotel at 9. Same room. Can't wait to finish what we started. The room tilted. A cold sweat broke out along my spine. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was still cheating, even after being caught. Jessica huffed, crossing her arms. You're overreacting, she said, her voice laced with irritation instead of guilt. That text doesn't mean what you think. I let out a cold, humorless laugh. Really? Because it looks like you were about to him in some hotel room. My voice shook, but it wasn't from sadness anymore. It was something darker, something boiling over after years of being blind to the truth. Jessica rolled her eyes. Again, like I was being unreasonable. God, Daniel, you always assume the worst. Maybe if you were a little more fun, I wouldn't have to find entertainment elsewhere. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed her wrist, not hard, just enough to make her look at me. Really look at me. You were never going to stop, were you? I whispered. She smirked. Why would I? That was it. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't regret. This was who she really was. I let go of her like she was made of fire. Get out, I said, my voice calm. Too calm. She blinked, caught off guard. What? You heard me. Get out. Jessica scoffed, flipping her blonde hair over her shoulder. Oh, don't be so dramatic. I'm not going anywhere. I clenched my jaw. Then I'll leave. I turned on my heel, heading for the door. But before I could grab my keys, she burst out laughing. Oh my God, Daniel. Seriously. She followed me, shaking her head. You think you're the one ending this? Honey, I've been done for years. The only reason I stayed this long was because you paid the bills. I froze. Jessica smirked, leaning against the wall. Oh, don't look so hurt. You had to have known deep down. You're not exactly exciting. She dragged a manicured finger down my chest. Jake, though? He knows how to keep a woman satisfied. I stepped back like she had slapped me. She was enjoying this. The way her eyes sparkled with amusement. The way she tilted her head like this was just a game. A knock at the door shattered the moment. Jessica frowned. Are you expecting someone? I wasn't. But I had a bad feeling I knew who it was. I opened the door and there he was. Jake. His smirk was even worse than hers. Hey, buddy, he said, stepping inside without an invitation. Heard you found out the truth. Must suck, huh? My fists clenched at my sides. Get the hell out of my house. Jake chuckled, throwing an arm around Jessica like she was his prize. Your house? Not for long, man. Once the divorce settles, half of this is hers. And guess who she'll be living with? I saw red. I swung before I could think. My fist connected with Jake's jaw, sending him stumbling back into the wall. He let out a grunt, touching his lip and staring at the blood on his fingers. Jesus, Daniel, he muttered, shaking his head. That was a mistake. Before I could react, he lunged. He was bigger, stronger, but I was faster. I dodged, grabbing his collar and slamming him into the wall again. Jessica shrieked, grabbing my arm. Daniel, stop. I shoved her off me, glaring. Why? You don't want me to break your little boyfriend's face. She huffed. You're being ridiculous. Jake pushed me off, fixing his shirt. Calm down, man. You already lost. Fighting me won't change that. I took a step forward, but then my phone buzzed in my pocket. I hesitated, glancing at it. A new message from the unknown number. Unknown. Check your bedroom. Top drawer. Now. My heart pounded. I turned and headed straight for the bedroom, ignoring Jessica and Jake's confused protests. I yanked open the drawer, rifling through the contents until my fingers brushed against something unfamiliar. A second phone. My breath caught in my throat. I hit the power button, and the screen lit up with dozens of notifications. Texts, calls, missed messages. From multiple men. I scrolled through, my stomach twisting with every message I read. Last night was amazing, baby. Can't stop thinking about you. Does your husband suspect anything? My fingers tightened around the phone. Jake wasn't the only one. I turned, storming back into the living room. Jessica and Jake stood there, watching me warily. I held up the phone. How many? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Jessica's expression flickered. Daniel, where did you get that? How many? She scoffed. Oh, don't be so dramatic. Jake whistled, shaking his head. Damn, Jess, you really got around, huh? She shot him a glare. Oh, shut up. Like you weren't doing the same. I stared at them, my stomach churning. I had spent years loving a woman who never loved me back. Raising a child that wasn't mine. Devoting my life to a marriage that had been a lie from the start. But now I was done. I pocketed the phone and grabbed my keys. I'm calling a lawyer first thing in the morning, I said, voice cold. And trust me, Jessica. You're not getting a single cent from me. Her eyes widened. Daniel, wait. I didn't. I walked out, slamming the door behind me. I walked out of the house, but I wasn't calm. My hands were clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. My chest was tight. My head pounded. And the weight of betrayal pressed down on me like a ton of bricks. The cold night air hit my face, but it didn't cool the fire raging inside me. I had been played for a fool. For years. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting another message from the unknown number. But instead, it was Jessica. Jessica, come back inside. We need to talk. I almost laughed. Talk? About what? How she had multiple men on speed dial. How she had been using me like a goddamn ATM while screwing around behind my back. I gritted my teeth and shoved the phone back into my pocket. There was nothing left to say. As I stood in the driveway, staring at the house that no longer felt like home, another thought hit me. If Jessica had been lying about everything, then what else was she hiding? I turned on my heel and marched back inside. The moment I stepped into the house, Jessica and Jake were still standing in the living room. She looked irritated, arms crossed, while Jake rubbed his jaw, shooting me a glare. Oh, look who decided to come back, Jessica sneered. I ignored her. I went straight for the office. Daniel, where the hell are you going? She snapped, following me. I didn't answer. I yanked open drawers, rummaging through files. Bank statements, credit card bills, anything that could tell me where my money had been going. Jessica grabbed my arm. You're being crazy. Stop it. I shoved her off. Shut up, Jessica. Just shut the hell up for once. Her eyes widened in shock. I had never talked to her like that before, but I was done playing the nice guy. I found what I was looking for. A stack of bank statements. I flipped through them, and my stomach turned. Thousands of dollars. Missing. And not just recently, for years. I glanced up at Jessica, who suddenly looked nervous. What the hell is this? I demanded, shoving the papers in her face. She rolled her eyes. Again. Oh my God, Daniel. Are you really going through our finances right now? Yes, because apparently, I don't know a damn thing about my own marriage. She groaned, rubbing her temples like I was the problem. It's nothing, just a few things I bought. Jesus, you're acting like I stole from you. I slammed the papers down. That's exactly what you did, Jessica. $10,000 for luxury services? What the hell does that even mean? She hesitated, just for a second. But that was all I needed. Was it for him? I asked, my voice deadly quiet. Or was it for one of the other guys? Her eyes flickered, and for the first time tonight, she didn't have a snarky response. Jake let out a low whistle. Damn, Jess, you were really milking him dry. Huh. She shot him a glare. Shut up, Jake. I turned to him. You knew. He shrugged. Not everything. Just that she had options. He smirked. Guess you weren't one of them. I lunged before I could stop myself. My fist connected with his face again. Harder this time. He stumbled back, crashing into the coffee table, groaning in pain. Jessica screamed. Daniel, stop it. What is wrong with you? I turned to her, chest heaving. What's wrong with me? What the hell is wrong with you? She scoffed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. Oh, grow up, Daniel. This is why I needed real men in my life. You're just a pathetic, jealous little boy. I clenched my fists. You really don't feel guilty about any of this, do you? She smirked. Nope. That was it. That was the final nail in the coffin. I grabbed my jacket. We're done. Jessica folded her arms. You don't get to decide that. I laughed coldly. Actually, I do. And first thing tomorrow, I'm filing for divorce. She didn't even flinch. Good. But don't think for a second you're getting rid of me that easily. You think you're gonna walk away without losing everything? Oh, baby. You're in for a rude awakening. I shook my head, disgusted. You can have the house. I don't care. But you're not getting a single dime more than you deserve. She smirked again. That's cute. You think you have a choice. I turned to leave, but then she said something that made my blood turn to ice. You know, you should really get a DNA test on Ethan. I stopped. Slowly, I turned back around. What did you just say? She shrugged, picking at her nails. I mean, you always said how much he looked like me. Never like you. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. No, she wouldn't. But deep down, I already knew the truth. Jessica smirked at my silence. What's wrong, Danny? You're not looking so good. I swallowed hard. Are you telling me he's not mine? She tilted her head. I'm saying, maybe you should check. A ringing sound filled my ears. My legs felt unsteady. Ethan. My son. My little boy. Jessica grinned, clearly enjoying watching me break. Or, just keep raising him like a good little idiot. It's your choice. I took a slow, shuddering breath. I needed to get out of here. Without another word, I turned and walked out. This time, I didn't stop. I got in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. A DNA test. I needed a DNA test. Now, as I drove away, one thought kept echoing in my mind. What if my entire life was a lie? I drove through the empty streets, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. My thoughts were a tangled mess, each one worse than the last. What if Ethan wasn't mine? The idea made me feel physically sick. My son, our son, had been the one thing keeping me sane through this nightmare. But now I wasn't even sure he was really mine. Jessica's voice echoed in my head, dripping with cruelty. You should really get a DNA test on Ethan. I clenched my jaw. I needed answers. Now, I pulled into a 24-hour pharmacy parking lot and ran inside. The bright fluorescent lights made everything feel surreal, like I was walking through a bad dream. I grabbed a DNA test kit from the shelf and tossed it onto the counter. The cashier, an older woman with tired eyes, glanced at me but didn't say a word. Probably could tell from my face that this wasn't the time for small talk. Back in the car, I ripped open the package with shaking hands. The instructions blurred in front of me, my vision clouded by rage and dread. I had no idea how I drove home without crashing. My thoughts were spinning too fast. When I walked inside, the house was dead silent. Jessica was probably upstairs, smug as ever, thinking she had finally broken me. She had no idea that I was way past broken. I was done. I stepped into Ethan's room, my heart pounding. He was asleep, curled up under his dinosaur blanket, his little chest rising and falling with each soft breath. Looking at him like this, it was impossible to believe that he might not be mine. But the doubt was a poison I couldn't ignore. I crouched beside his bed and whispered, "I love you, buddy." Then, with as much care as I could, I swabbed the inside of his cheek. He barely stirred. I held the sample in my hand, staring at it. This tiny piece of cotton could destroy everything I had left. A floorboard creaked behind me. I turned and found Jessica leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, smirking like she had just won some twisted game. "Wow," she whispered. "You actually did it. I almost didn't think you had the balls." I stood up, keeping my voice low. "You want to tell me the truth now, or should I wait for the results?" She tilted her head, pretending to think. I think you should wait. It'll be more fun that way." My fists clenched. "You are sick. You know that." Jessica laughed. "Oh, please, Daniel. You act like I'm the bad guy here. But let's be real, you've always been so boring. Always so predictable. What did you expect? That I'd stay faithful forever? That I'd be some devoted little housewife?" I gritted my teeth. "That's exactly what marriage is supposed to be." She rolled her eyes. "Yeah, well, maybe I wanted more. And guess what? I took it. And you? You just let it happen. So don't stand there pretending like you're some kind of victim." I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "I'll have the results soon. And if Ethan isn't mine..." She cut me off with a slow, mocking clap. "Oh no, whatever will I do if big, strong Daniel finds out the truth? You gonna cry about it? Run to your lawyer." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Let me tell you something, sweetheart. Even if he's not yours, you think I'm just gonna let you walk away? I will drag you through hell and back in that courtroom. You will pay for every single thing I want. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it." I stared at her, disgusted. "You really don't feel any remorse, do you?" Jessica grinned. "Nope." I took one last look at her. The woman I had spent years loving, trusting, building a life with, and I felt nothing but pure hatred. Without another word, I turned and walked away. The next day, I barely slept. Every hour felt like a lifetime as I waited for the DNA test results. My mind replayed everything. Every red flag I ignored, every excuse Jessica had given me, every time she made me feel like I was the problem. By morning, I had made my decision. No matter what the test said, I was getting out of this marriage. Even if Ethan wasn't biologically mine, he was still my son, and I would fight for him. The moment the results came in, my phone buzzed. I grabbed it with shaking hands, opened the email, and scanned the words. My stomach dropped. Probability of paternity 0%. Couldn't breathe. I read it again, but the numbers didn't change. Ethan wasn't mine. The air left my lungs like I had been punched. My hands trembled. My head spun. No. Jessica had stolen everything from me. My marriage, my money, my dignity. But this was the worst betrayal of all. Footsteps approached behind me. Jessica's voice was light, amused. "Well, do we have a winner?" I turned slowly, my eyes burning with rage. "You knew," I said. She smirked. "Of course I knew. Do you have any idea how stupid you looked all these years? Raising another man's kid like a good little idiot?" Something inside me snapped. I had spent so many nights wondering if I was crazy, doubting myself, blaming myself for our problems. But it was never me. It was always her. I took a slow, steady breath. "I want you out of this house. Today." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Oh, honey, I don't think so." I stepped closer, my voice cold. "You're a liar, a cheater, a goddamn parasite. But guess what? You don't get to control me anymore." She laughed. "Control you? Oh, baby, you have no idea what's coming. You think you can just kick me out and move on? I will ruin you in court. I will take everything. You will be begging me to stop by the time I'm done with you." I smiled. For the first time in months, I felt completely calm. "Not if I destroy you first." Her smirk faltered just a little. I grabbed my phone, already dialing my lawyer. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Jessica sat across from me at the kitchen table, swirling a cup of coffee like she had all the time in the world. Her smirk was still there, but I could see the slight tension in her jaw. She knew I wasn't playing anymore. The DNA test had shattered whatever twisted game she thought she was winning. I kept my voice calm. "You're leaving. Today." Jessica snorted. "And where do you think I'm going?" I shrugged. "I don't care. Find a hotel. Go to your boyfriend's place. Sleep in your car for all I care. But you're done living here." She leaned back, stretching like a cat. "See, that's adorable, Danny. You think you have a say in this." I stared at her, disgust curling in my gut. "This isn't your house. It's our house. And since our marriage is over, it's time for you to get out." Jessica sighed dramatically. "Oh, poor you. You just found out that little Ethan isn't yours, and now you want to play the big, strong man and kick me out? You're so predictable." I gritted my teeth. "This isn't about playing tough. You have no right to be here anymore." She laughed. "Oh, baby, you're not the one who decides that. See, I know my rights. And legally, you can't just throw me out. We're still married, and until a judge tells me otherwise, I'm staying right here." I clenched my fists under the table. She was right. Kicking her out without a legal battle could backfire. But there was no way in hell I was going to let her sit here and mock me in my own damn house. "You're disgusting," I muttered. Jessica tilted her head. "And yet, you still let me get away with it for years. Guess that makes you the fool, doesn't it?" I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. "I'm done talking. I already called my lawyer. You're gonna hear from him soon." She grinned. "Oh, I cannot wait." The lawyer's office. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Mark Dawson, my lawyer, who had seen it all before. He flipped through the papers I had brought, our financial statements, the DNA results, a few screenshots of Jessica's texts that I had managed to recover. His face remained unreadable. Finally, he set the papers down. "Well, Daniel, you're in for a fight." I nodded. "I figured as much." Mark steepled his fingers. "The DNA results work in your favor, but they don't automatically mean you're off the hook. You raised Ethan as your own. The court might still hold you responsible for child support." My stomach twisted. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious." He sighed. "Family court doesn't care about fairness, Daniel. They care about what's best for the child. And if the judge thinks that means you keep paying, then—" He spread his hands. I ran a hand through my hair. "So what do we do?" Mark leaned forward. "We build a case. We document everything. You start gathering proof, Jessica's cheating, her spending habits, her treatment of you. We make it impossible for her to win." I exhaled slowly. "And what about the house?" He nodded. "That's easier. Since it's under your name, we can file for exclusive use during the divorce. It'll take time, but if we play this right, you can force her out." That was the first good news I'd heard in weeks. "Then let's do it." Mark smiled. "Good. Because something tells me your wife isn't going down without a fight." The first shot. When I got home, I found Jessica in the living room, scrolling through her phone like she didn't have a care in the world. But when she saw me, her smirk widened. "Hope you had fun at your little meeting," she said. I ignored her and went upstairs, locking my office door behind me. I pulled out my laptop and started drafting an email to Mark with every detail I could think of. If she wanted war, I was ready. Half an hour later, I heard her footsteps outside the door. Then bang. Something slammed against the door, making me jump. "Open the damn door, Daniel," she snapped. I didn't move. "Not interested." Bang. Another hit. "You think you can just ignore me?" I sighed. "You're acting like a child." Jessica kicked the door this time. "Let's get something straight, sweetheart. You don't get to control me. You don't get to push me out of this house like I'm some inconvenience." I exhaled through my nose. "Actually, I do. You'll see soon enough." Silence. Then her laugh. "Oh, babe," she purred. "You really think this is gonna go your way, don't you?" I stood up, unlocking the door. She was standing there, arms crossed, eyes glittering with something dark. "I'm not scared of you, Jessica," I said. She leaned in close. "Oh, but you should be." Then she turned and walked away, humming to herself. A chill ran down my spine. I had no idea what she was planning, but I knew one thing for sure: this wasn't over. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of something shattering downstairs. My heart hammered as I bolted upright, half expecting to find Jessica mid-destruction. But when I rushed down, I found Ethan's framed baby picture lying in pieces on the floor. Jessica stood there, arms crossed, watching me with that same smug smirk. Oops. I clenched my jaw. What the hell is wrong with you? She shrugged. Just getting rid of things that don't matter anymore. You know, since you've decided to erase your son from your life. A sharp pain stabbed through my chest, but I pushed it down. He's not my son, Jessica. You made sure of that. She scoffed. You raised him. You rocked him to sleep. You kissed his scraped knees. And now, just because some stupid piece of paper tells you otherwise, you're gonna pretend he's a stranger. My fists clenched at my sides. You don't get to manipulate me, Jess. You lied. You stole years from me. And now, you want me to keep paying for your mistakes. Her face darkened. You think you're some kind of victim, huh? Poor little Daniel, betrayed by the big bad wife. But let's be real. You were never man enough to keep me happy. Something inside me snapped. Then why the hell did you stay? Jessica's eyes flickered with something. Anger, maybe guilt, but she hid it fast. Because you were easy. You believed every lie, every excuse. And, let's be honest, your money wasn't bad either. I took a slow breath. Thanks for finally admitting it. She rolled her eyes. Whatever, Daniel. You think you're gonna win this? You're not. I talked to a lawyer too, and guess what? You're still on the hook for Ethan. A chill ran through me. What? She grinned. That's right. You signed the birth certificate. Legally, you're his father. And the court isn't gonna give a damn about your little DNA test. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Could she really pull that off? She saw the panic in my face and laughed. Oh, baby, you really thought you were free? The first strike. I drove straight to Mark's office. He was already waiting, flipping through a stack of papers. Jessica's lawyer filed first, he said grimly. She's requesting spousal support and child support. My stomach dropped. You've got to be kidding me. Mark sighed. Nope. And since you've been the primary provider, the court might sympathize with her. I shook my head. No. I'm not paying for a kid that isn't mine. Mark leaned back. It's tricky, but not impossible. We need proof that she knew Ethan wasn't yours from the start. If we can prove fraud, we have a shot. I exhaled. And the house. That's where we do have leverage. She's not on the deed. And with her admitting to infidelity, a judge is more likely to grant you exclusive rights. It wasn't enough. I wanted her to suffer, to pay for what she did. Mark studied me. Daniel, I get it. You want revenge. But the goal here is to win, not to fight for the sake of fighting. I gritted my teeth. No. The goal is to make sure she doesn't walk away from this thinking she won. Mark sighed. Then we need a game changer. Jessica's next move. I got home late, mentally drained, only to find Jessica sitting on the couch with her legs crossed, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Oh, there you are, she drawled. Busy planning your big revenge? I ignored her and headed upstairs. By the way, she called after me, Ethan's real dad might be coming by soon. Thought you should know. I stopped cold. What? She laughed. Oh yeah, he wants to meet his kid. Cute, right? I turned slowly. You gave him my address? Jessica smirked. He asked for it. And since you don't want to play daddy anymore, I figured I'd introduce the real one. My vision blurred with rage. You brought that piece of garbage into my home? She stood up, strolling toward me with that damn smirk. I mean, technically it's my home too, right? And maybe we should all just get along. Who knows? Maybe we'll even have a little family dinner. I exhaled through my nose, trying not to snap. I swear to God, Jessica, you don't know what you're playing with. She tilted her head. Oh, but I do. The breaking point. That night I barely slept. I kept picturing Ethan's real father sitting in my living room, maybe drinking a beer, maybe laughing with Jessica like this was all some joke. Morning came, and with it, a knock at the door. I opened it to find a man standing there, mid-30s, with the kind of cocky smirk that made my blood boil. "Hey," he said. "Name's Ryan." I stared at him. "I don't care." He chuckled. "Fair enough. Look, man, I just want to see my kid. No hard feelings, all right?" Hard feelings? Hard feelings? This guy wrecked my life and had the audacity to stand on my porch, acting like we were going to be buddies? "You've got some nerve," I said. Ryan shrugged. "Not my fault Jessica wanted an upgrade." My hands curled into fists. I wanted to break his face right then and there. Jessica appeared behind me, sliding past like a snake. "Oh, babe, don't be rude. Let Ryan in." I turned on her. "This isn't a game, Jessica." She grinned. "Oh, but it is. And I'm winning." For a split second, I almost lost control. But then, an idea clicked into place. She thought she was untouchable, that she had all the power. Time to change the rules. I turned to Ryan, forcing a smile. "Come in, man. Let's talk." Jessica's smirk faltered just slightly. "Good. Let the real game begin." Ryan walked into my house like he owned the place, his smug grin growing wider as he scanned the living room. He had that kind of arrogance that made my skin crawl, the kind of guy who never faced consequences, who thought the world owed him something just for existing. Jessica trailed behind him, practically glowing with satisfaction. She thought she'd won. She thought she was in control. She had no idea what was coming. I gestured toward the couch. "Take a seat, Ryan. Drink." He raised an eyebrow. "Whiskey, if you've got it." I smirked. "Of course you'd drink whiskey." I poured him a glass, making sure to take my time, letting the silence stretch between us. Jessica perched herself on the armrest of the couch, watching us like she was enjoying a reality show. "So," I said, handing Ryan the drink, "you just found out you've got a kid. How does that feel?" He shrugged. "Not gonna lie, man. Kinda weird. I mean, I wasn't planning on being a dad. But hey, life's full of surprises." Jessica giggled. "Oh, Daniel knows all about surprises." I ignored her. "And you're planning to step up? Just like that?" Ryan took a sip. "Why not? Kid deserves to know his real father. And, I figured I'd help Jess out. Single parenting's tough." I leaned forward, my smile sharp as a blade. "You think Ethan's yours now?" Ryan frowned. Yeah. I mean, biologically." I cut him off. "No, see, that's where you're wrong. Legally, I'm his father. I've been on the birth certificate for 8 years. I raised him. I paid for him. And the law doesn't care who biologically made him. Cares about who's been responsible. And that's me." Jessica's smirk wavered. Ryan's grip on his glass tightened. I continued. "So, unless you're planning on adopting him, which, by the way, requires my approval, you're just another guy Jess screwed around with." Ryan's jaw twitched. He looked at Jessica. "You said it'd be easy." Jessica forced a laugh. "It is easy. Daniel's just bluffing." I pulled out my phone and opened an email from my lawyer. "This is from Mark, my attorney. It outlines exactly what's going to happen next. 1. I'm filing for full custody of Ethan. 2. I'm suing you for paternity fraud. And 3. I turned to Ryan. If you even think about trying to play daddy, I'll make sure the courts drag you into this mess too." Jessica shot up. "You wouldn't dare." I met her eyes. "Wouldn't I?" Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man, I don't want legal trouble." Jessica whipped toward him. "Oh, so now you're scared? Where's all that confidence from earlier?" Ryan set his drink down. "You didn't tell me he had this much leverage." I chuckled. "Jessica? Lying? What a shock." She glared at me. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" I stood up. "No, Jess. I think I'm done." The final play. Later that night, I started packing my bags. Jessica followed me upstairs, arms crossed. "You're really leaving?" she asked, her voice tight. I zipped up my suitcase. "That's what happens when someone burns everything to the ground." She scoffed. "Oh, please, you'll come crawling back. You're too weak to start over." I turned to her, calm and steady. That's where you're wrong. I should have done this years ago. She rolled her eyes. And what about Ethan? You just gonna walk out on him? Something inside me twisted, but I held firm. No, I'm fighting for him. Without you. Her eyes darkened. You really think you'll win? You're not as ruthless as me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You're right. I'm not. But you're sloppy. You get cocky. And that's why you'll lose. For the first time, she didn't have a snarky comeback. I grabbed my suitcase and walked past her. She didn't stop me. A storm brewing. A week later, I was living in a hotel, but the battle wasn't over. Mark called me in for a meeting. Jessica's pushing back hard, he said. Her lawyer is arguing that you've been Ethan's father for too long to back out now. I clenched my jaw. And, Mark sighed, we're still fighting it. But she's making this as ugly as possible. I wasn't surprised. Jessica was always like this. If she couldn't win, she'd try to destroy everything in the process. She's also making allegations, Mark added carefully. I stiffened. What kind of allegations? Mark hesitated. She's claiming emotional abuse, that you were controlling, manipulative. I barked out a laugh. Are you kidding me? Not at all. And it gets worse. She's saying you abandoned Ethan. I gritted my teeth. I didn't abandon him. She forced me out. Mark nodded. I know, but the court doesn't know that. We need evidence. I exhaled. What kind of evidence? Anything that proves she's lying. Texts, emails, recordings. I thought about it. Jessica had said a lot of damning things in the past few weeks. If I could catch her admitting to her manipulation, it could turn the tide. I'll get it, I said. Mark gave me a look. Be careful, Daniel. She's dangerous when cornered. I nodded. So am I. The setup. That night I called Jessica. She picked up on the first ring. Regretting leaving already? I kept my voice casual. Just wanted to talk. She hummed. About. I hesitated just enough to make it seem real. I don't know. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe we can work something out. Silence. Then a slow, pleased exhale. I knew you'd come around. I bit back my anger. I mean, I did love you once. She laughed softly. Oh, Daniel. You were always so easy to play. My stomach tightened. Yeah. Oh, please. You believed everything. The late nights, the excuses, the way I made you feel guilty for asking too many questions. God. You were like a little puppy, just waiting to be led. I gripped my phone, every muscle in my body screaming to end this conversation. But I needed more. So, you admit it? That you used me? Jessica chuckled. Of course I used you. You were useful. I hit the record button. Game over.